What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. We got returning guest Patrick here. What's up, Patrick?
What's going on, guys? Nice to see everyone again. Nice to be
He's
back.
he's back to go some rounds about this crazy pay-per-view we got going on this weekend. Pretty stacked card. I'm pretty happy about it because, you know, it's been a little bit since we've had a really, really good card. So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of really interesting fights on this one, and a lot of questions about certain fighters are going to get answered. You got like some young and up and coming guys going against some veterans. You got some well established people. You got some one scenario where we got like the brick wall running into another brick wall, and we're going to see who's going to crumble type thing. So it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything on this card, and there's been a lot of news and a lot of press going on about different stuff with all of these fights and all these fighters. The only crappy part is that it's in Abu Dhabi, which is fine usually, except they're catering to that market, and it's gonna be a daytime UFC for us. Main card's gonna be
hmm
starting at 11 a.m. Arizona time, so you can apply that however you need to wherever you are. But for us, it'll be 11 a.m. for main card start time. So that puts a damper on things a little bit. But you know what? We're gonna do the damn thing anyway and watch it and have a good time. So
Yeah, if the press conference is any indication, dude, the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, Dagestan, those guys are going nuts for this fight.
yeah, they go ham for their own people for sure. And and for whoever they think is good and what they favor, they let you know. There's no way around it.
Absolutely.
So, what you been up to, man? Any good news? Any good things going on lately? Or
Same old, man. I think the last time we talked, the football season was just getting ready to go, and speaking of going rounds, my Steelers have been going some rounds and getting trounced a little bit, but
oh
we just had
man,
a nice little win against Tom Brady, so
yeah, that's good,
we're coming up again. So
no
other
doubt.
than that, man, just hanging out.
I was happy to see you guys get that win. My team's no better. I mean, I think we might have a slightly better record than you right now, but maybe by like one game.
Yeah,
Either
we're
way,
we're both kind of on the struggle bus together there a little bit.
yeah, man, it sucks. I'm used to being the shitty team and your team being the good team, and this year it's weird. The whole league is off though, man. Like, how the fuck are the Jets beating people like the Packers? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
The
And
one
then the
thing that's good
Giants.
about that is it's like some fresh stuff, like
Oh yeah,
something a little different. So yeah,
but the Jets they're always. I mean, I'm sorry, Christo, my boy, my bro. I know that's your team, but that team's always ass, man. Like they suck all the time. I hate to say it, but it's true. And then for them to come up and start beating people like the Packers. I mean, I know Aaron Rodgers is
yeah,
off his game right now, but I don't know, man. It's a weird thing this year with baseball too, man. My Braves got kicked out right away. First
yep,
round done. The Dodgers first round done. The
yep.
Padres of all fucking teams are are moving on. Like, come on, it's
I'm like
crazy.
a halfway Yankee fan, so I'm kind of stoked that they're still in there. But
Don't
even
worry,
then,
they're out
man,
soon.
yeah,
No, I'm just
Astros
kidding.
are. I don't know. They might be cheating again, so we'll
Oh
see.
yeah. Yeah, they're never going to get rid of that stigma along with other people that have been cheating. We'll be talking
Yep,
about that in a little bit.
yep.
But that leads us right into back to MMA. We always got to talk football a little bit because Patrick's a big football fan, big Steelers fan, as we all know from the last podcast. We were trying to figure out what episode that was. There it is. We were trying to figure out what episode that was he was on last time, but I can't remember. I could probably look it up too, but I'm like, it's probably. I think it was like 5, so you might be on like 5 and 10, which is cool.
Yeah, there
But
we
this
go.
is
Yeah,
episode 10. If anybody out there that's watching this knows me, knows that episode 10, that means that's my number, you know what I mean? So this has to be a good one. And I got Patrick on. He knows his shit. And this is a great UFC card, so this should be all
yeah,
good all around. Um
yeah. I'll try and make it another good one.
it was good before. My audio should not be fucked up this time. So for all of you that were disappointed last time, please give me another chance here because it's been good ever since. It was a one-time thing, and I'm super careful now, trying to make sure that none of that kind of stuff happens again. I had a streaming problem at one point in time too. That's hilarious.
Yep. Growing
I like,
pains, man, growing
yeah,
pains.
no, but I like, I'll say it every time that I like to make sure I point it out, and I like, people are like, "Why do you say anything? Nobody would have known." I'm like, "Cause I have to. I have to. I have to keep myself accountable, and I have to make sure that if I embarrass myself on here, then that's a good way to for me to know that I'm not gonna do it again." So I'm gonna make sure that I'm not coasting. And if I'm coasting, that's when things happen. So I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. But
Yep, yep, for sure.
yeah. This 10 episodes, man. I'm trying here. Like we're one a week, and I wanted to throw in some extra ones here and there. Like I was gonna do something like a kind of a reaction video to a Jake Paul video with Stephen A. Smith. And I didn't do it. I was just kind of worried about, what I can and can't do with streaming stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I really wanted
Well,
to
I for
because
one say the less attention we give the Paul brothers, the better.
you know, I mean, yeah, I got you. I know why you would say that.
Yeah, I'm
There,
hoping Anderson Silva does me a favor here coming up soon.
yeah, and that's definitely something I want to talk about because that's coming up. And yeah, it Jake annoys me more than Logan, but Logan's kind of a douche too. I don't know. I feel bad for saying shit because I'm just like they're just doing their thing. But they always do something
Yeah.
stupid and annoying. And but Jake's doing some
Yeah,
good stuff here and there.
you got to respect the hustle. I give him that. I don't know. For my part, it's like I play into it because I pay attention to it. I know what's going on. I probably wouldn't pay to watch one of their fights, but my eyes are on it when it's going on. So we'll see what happens, man. It's if there's one thing they know how to do, it's promote and get eyes on them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, so nothing else big, huh? I want to like I was talking to Patrick earlier about, if he wanted to get on here more and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. You might see a little more of him here and there because I think he likes doing it, right?
Yeah, it's
And
fun, and then I think we got the similar type of situation going on where like I have friends that are into fights and stuff like that, but not kind of on the same level where I am. So it's good to like talk to someone that has that same kind of passion for it, but not only the passion for it, but is a I gotta say more knowledgeable than I am, which is that doesn't happen too often to me when I'm talking about fighting. So especially MMA.
It's funny. I'm always when I run into somebody that sounds like they know what they're talking about. I'm like, oh, I might have met my match here because I didn't do any of this on purpose. You know what I mean? Like me getting into like I got into MMA and UFC and stuff because of an old coworker I worked with, and he was crazy about it, and he got me into all of it. And I just started watching because I was, you go to the workplace and they're talking, and I'm like, I don't watch this stuff, but it's interesting. I like fighting myself. Like these were the days when I was fighting in the streets. So I'm like, I'll just watch
The
people fight.
knucklehead days.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm like, I want to watch people fight on TV. So I got into it, and it just went from there, man. I don't think I've missed part. I could probably count on two hands how many times I've missed an event like for 10 plus years now. So that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy because yeah,
Yeah, when fighting is good, I mean, it's the greatest sport there is. There's nothing like it. There's nothing that can beat it. It's the ultimate spectacle of human competition. You know.
no doubt. Human chess, man. That's what it is because
Yeah.
between all of the, like jujitsu, striking, Muay Thai, kickboxing, everything that's involved in MMA is just you have to be calculated, you have to be careful unless you're just one of those dudes that can run over everybody, but you're always going to meet your match when you're that person.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we're running it. We're coming to a point now where the people that are like that are few and far between. Now, we're at a point in the game where there's a lot of people that have been coming up that know what they're doing now. There's gone are the days where you can just be a wrestler and get by just being a wrestler, or a striker and get by just being a striker. You have to be complete nowadays to compete, and and have longevity and become a champion, and even harder than that, stay a champion.
For
So
sure.
the guys that are up there and in the upper echelon, they're the real deal, and yeah, they're tough.
Unless you're from Dagestan, and then you can just be a goddamn wrestler or grappler because nobody can seem to stop him. I mean, nobody's been Khabib yet, but
But and the thing is like those guys have hands too, man. And there's
yeah,
that Sambo's no joke, dude.
yeah, for sure. For sure, because I mean, that's putting stuff together. So they're already partially there by learning all of what Sambo has to offer. So it's pretty
You
much
know,
MMA when it comes
and
down to it.
I think it benefits them too. And maybe this sounds a little messed up, but when you're in an area where your sole focus can be like your sport or whatever that you're trying to do, it's like you're going to be that much better um, at what you're trying to do. I don't feel like they have the same distractions that other people do.
Yeah, their beliefs and their culture and their way of life, it sets them up to be different. They're hard people, man, just because of their surroundings and how they grew up. And people can
Yeah,
disrespect them all they want because they're from another country and they look a certain way and they speak a certain way and they hold themselves a certain way. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm talking about fighting MMA and in a professional level. So none of that matters to me. That's why Khabib was one of my favorite fighters all the time because I don't give a shit what he does at home as long as I don't, he's not being one of those people that's, turns out to be a child molester or something like that. Like
jeez,
as long as it's not something like that, I don't give a shit what they do or what they believe in because, I
yeah.
like him for what he does in a sport. People get crazy about basketball players and football players and all the shit that they do. And I'm just like, shut the fuck up and watch the game. Just shut up and watch the
Yeah.
game. Sometimes you don't
Well,
have to include all of that. So,
if if there's one thing that I think I respect is it's authenticity and the real. And Khabib and his camp, man, they're certainly that. They're not pretending to be anything else than what they are. And a lot of times you run into guys that aren't necessarily the best talkers or the most exciting style or anything like that, but you have to respect their game because they're just that good and they can beat anybody. So, and that's certainly those Dagestani guys, man. They're
no
tough.
doubt. And that's a lot of what we have on this fight card. So, yeah, we're not just talking out of our ass here about this. This all has to do with, I mean, it's in Abu Dhabi. Come on. Like, of course, they always try to put hometown per se, but like people of that area, all whether it's there,
Yeah.
China, Brazil, anywhere, they're always trying to find people
Yep.
to bring in the local crowd. So of course you're gonna get a lot of in areas like this, you're gonna get a lot of names you can't
Yep.
pronounce.
And shout out to the fighters that aren't from that area that had the balls to step up and go over there, because they had to know they were stepping right into the lion's den. Like
Oh yeah,
before we hopped on, I was watching a snippet from the press conference today, and like the fighters couldn't even talk because the crowd was going so crazy for Makachev. So
yep.
you know you got to have some stones to be able to fly over there. 13 hours to go and like fight. That's crazy.
While the UFC hooks them up though, most of those guys get to lay down on the plane, have some nice
Yeah, I
drinks
would
if
hope
they
so.
can. Yeah. So, but that's a long flight that I don't ever want to take. I mean, maybe one day if I decide to go somewhere, but I'm not sure I want to get on a plane for that long.
I'm not a big I'm not a big plane guy either, but Abu Dhabi looks sick, dude. I
It does.
I wouldn't mind having a couple days in that town.
Yeah, for sure. Um. Oh man, I was just gonna say something. It's like I took a drink and forgot. Damn it. Oh wow.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Well, hey. By the way, I heard you have a drink too. So let's cheers it up and get this
Absolutely.
shit going, bro. Cheers.
Cheers, homie.
Right on. All right. So we are mainly going to be talking about UFC 280 because number one, that's the big thing going on this weekend in all of combat sports. Everyone's focused on this card. It's going to be one of the best well, I'm not going to say it's going to be. It's made up to be one of the best cards of the year by far in general. And if you're just looking at this poster right now, you'll see why. Because a lot of these names you'll recognize. A lot of them, if you know fighting, you'll understand why this is such a big card. We got two title fights. There's a lot of guys in the same, weight classes, and it's almost like a mini tournament type thing here going on.
Absolutely. And
So
between these fighters, like just looking at the poster right now, there's so many exciting finishes attributed to the people on this poster. Like these guys, not only should it be a very good card with exciting fights, but we should be looking for some finishes as well. So
definitely.
this should be a really good card.
And the this is just the main card, which by the way, one of these fights isn't even on the main card. Muhammad versus Brady is actually the featured fight on the prelims. There's other good fights on the prelims. Apparently, they left off of this poster the woman fight that's happening on the main card. So I don't know. It's a little telling as to what they're trying to do here. They're putting a really good fight to get people over to the pay per view, which is not unusual. That's kind of how they do things. But man, Muhammad versus Brady, that's one of those fights that I don't know how they couldn't put that on the main card. But there is a couple other notable fights um on the man, I gotta just take another drink because I'm like having trouble
Yeah.
talking on the
No,
prelim cards.
absolutely. And like just anytime that you have those cards that have like multiple title fights on them, it's always going to work out the best for us the fans because they have no choice but to kind of stack these events. And then just like you said, man, you nailed it on the head. There's title implications all over this card, and um you could see future matchups on this based on who wins and who loses and stuff like that. So, um, this is going to be an exciting event, and it's going to be for a lot of exciting events too. It's actually been pretty interesting because if you've been keeping up with like the embedded series and stuff like that, um, they've kind of teased a lot of matchups and stuff like that with people going in, and it's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to what's going to come out after this to see what is going to come down the pipe too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean the first fight is Muhammad versus Brady. So these guys are, like I said, the featured prelim bout. It's going to be the main event on the prelim card. That's how they like to bring it up. So that's why I say that. I put it in quotes because it seems kind of silly. But at the same time, if they're putting a great fight on the tail end of the prelims, which is the last fight you're going to see on ESPN, I mean, it could bring people over. So I guess it's kind of smart. And when it comes to the fighters, for them not to be on the main card of something like this doesn't necessarily mean it's bad because they do have a lot more eyes on them coming from a platform like ESPN Plus, where a lot more people will have that and watch it, as opposed to paying the extra money to go and get the pay-per-view. So if they're not planning on getting the pay-per-view, you're gonna have a lot of eyes on a fight like this, and a fight like this could be fire for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the winner of this fight absolutely starts going into the top 5 and hopefully getting like even a higher ranked opponent than that. I don't think it necessarily has title implications right away, but I mean, depending on how this fight ends up turning out and if there's a finish between either guys, like this sets up like who could be the next contender and superstar, you know what I mean? And then one
Definitely.
thing I wanted to say too, shout out to Brady, Sean Brady for like so a lot of fighters get shit ass tattoo work and his is actually really good. So he
Yeah.
has a lot of good shit. So shout out to Brady for that.
And you always know when he's fighting, when he could have his head buried in somebody's chest and you know it's him because of that big ass back tattoo. That thing is
Exactly.
colorful, that thing stands out, and it's nice work too. I mean, shit. From this picture right here, it's probably small for everybody to see unless they're watching on some big screen. But I mean, it kind of looks cluttered or whatever. But if you really look at it, he does have some very detailed work, and it's really nice and really well done. So, and
Yep.
I think it's more just that he's so kind of, I don't want to say pale, but he's real light skinned, real white. I don't even know what his ethnicity is, but he's pretty white. I guess he's from Philadelphia. So he's pale. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
his tattoos
Yeah,
stand
Philly
out a
kid.
lot. Yeah. I feel like he should fill in a little bit in some of the areas. And I think that's what would make it look even better.
Well,
But
he's
I
it looks like to me like he's only left with the areas that suck, so good
yeah,
luck with that.
he put some thought into that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but man, dude, Brady, he's a crazy ass fighter. He's 5-0 in the UFC right now, and he's 15-0 overall in MMA. So I mean, he's undefeated, and he's got a lot to fight for with that because there's always a lot of pressure on somebody who's undefeated. They say once that O goes away, then you take some pressure off you. But he doesn't look like he's too phased. I mean, he looks pretty relaxed and pretty in there to just get down and throw some punches and kicks and he's pretty quick with it too.
Yeah. In the lead ups to the fight card, in his interviews and stuff like that, he's been exactly that. He's been really relaxed, really calm. It doesn't seem like the weight of the moment is getting to him at all, and probably rightly so. Um, Thinking back to watching like a couple of his different fights and seeing him come up, not only like does he have like that win streak going and the undefeated aspect to it, but like he's a gamer, man. Like every one of his fights that I've seen has been exciting. He's gotten some good finishes. So he's a good one to watch. He's very exciting. So that'll be that. I don't think they could have picked a better fight to end up or finish off the free portion of the card.
Definitely. I mean, he's got insane cardio and he likes to suffocate people. He's always getting people in positions and chokes and stuff where he like they can't breathe, makes them choke, makes them tap out faster. And he's just super quick from what I can tell. And he's just a little stocky fucker. You just know he's gonna whoop somebody's ass. So
Absolutely.
yeah. But I mean, Bilal Muhammad is a badass in his own right. He's been around for quite a while and he's kind of been a little up and down, but a lot of his fights are like I guess because he doesn't get a ton of finishes, that might be part of the reason why he gets held back so much. But I think that he's a great fighter. I think that he's well worth, putting some time and effort into and watching some of his fights. And I think that I think he's gonna do pretty well against Brady, but I'm back and forth on this one. I don't know who's gonna take it because I could see
Yeah, and
Brady. Oh, go ahead.
the the thing that I see about Muhammad too is I agree with what you said that he's been sort of up and down and like he doesn't have a lot of finishes, but he is a gamer and he's tough. And the thing about Brady and sometimes this happens with guys that are undefeated and on big win streaks, and we just saw it with Usman, right? You can get overconfident and come in and take guys lightly, and sometimes that could be your undoing. So, if Brady isn't on his game and um, fighting smart, he could get caught in something for sure. So
Yeah.
we'll
And
see, man.
Bilal
It's going to be interesting.
Bilal is one of those guys that man, my something feels like is crawling on me or something. I don't know what's going on here. And you got problems in your eyes, it looks like.
Yeah, I left
Or
like a
having
fan
issues
on and
making your
friggin'
eyes
yeah,
water.
bothering me.
Yeah, but Bilal's good at takedowns, and he always seems to go from a takedown to a quick transition to taking the back or grabbing a neck, and if nothing else, he turns it into something where he's either ground and pounding you out or putting you in a submission. So if
Yeah,
Brady's too
a dog
confident,
fight.
yeah, if Brady's overconfident and comes in with sloppy, kicks and punches, Bilal's gonna take advantage of that. It seems to me like he takes somebody down at the best time, and he always winds up on their back somehow. If not, trying to get their back and gets them in a position that keeps them on the ground for a while. So he's always in a dominant position. So I'm
One
pretty
thing to
hyped
note
about this fight.
yeah, one thing to note for this fight too is this the first time that Brady's fighting somewhere besides the States?
Yes. He's
Okay,
actually he's actually only, I think he's only had one fight that wasn't in the Apex.
okay.
So this is like one of the bigger fights where he's gonna have a big crowd under the bright lights, pretty much.
So that might actually be kind of one of the defining factors of this fight for sure. I don't think that Brady's going to let that get to him, but we'll see what happens to him when he has to respond to like a negative crowd, and he's not necessarily going to be the favorite over there for sure. So um we'll see what happens with that. It should be a really good fight.
Hopefully,
I'm leaning towards Brady to get the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way too.
Right. And hopefully he acclimated well because that's part of the problem a lot of the time going overseas and taking that long plane ride. If they don't get out there with enough time and they
Yeah.
try to get out there like less than a week or a week out, man, it
I
takes
want to say
forever.
I heard that he got out there 13 days early. So he's
Okay,
he's had a couple days there. So I
good.
think he should be well acclimated by now.
Yeah. I mean, I know there was I think Makachev was out there like a month ahead or some shit like that. Is crazy. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight, and I don't have a pick on it because I think it's gonna be a great fight. It's gonna go back and forth, and I'm not sure who's gonna win, to be honest. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
this
it.
should be one of those where they'll we don't know what's going to happen, but one thing's for sure is that the fans will get a win out of this one. It should be a really fun fight.
Oh yeah, and remember, if you're not getting the pay-per-view, you still get to watch this fight because if you have ESPN Plus, it's the last fight on the prelims, so it'll be right before the pay-per-view starts, which is a good way to get into it. Um,
Mhm.
so our next fight is Beneil Dariush versus Gamrot. I'm not gonna say his first name. I should though. Matayush. That's how you say
Yeah,
it.
I'm
I had
not
to
even
actually
gonna
look at
try.
it. Earlier today. I was listening to the podcast. Anik and Florian. So John Anik is a commentator, and he actually. I think I told you this last time. He actually plays those like the files that he gets so that he can pronounce everything correctly. So the
Mhm.
fighters actually say it and pronounce their name. So they say it quickly like normal, and then they say it slow. And he'll play those files on his podcast because he has a little thing with his producer where he gets his producer to try to try to pronounce the really hard names. So it's kind of cool because you get to learn how you're actually supposed to say it, and you kind of get a little insight into. Anik he's got crazy like OCD about it. He wants to make sure he gets everything perfect. So and even in his podcast, it comes across that way. You can kind of tell that he structures his podcast in a certain way. When he lets loose a little bit and he's tired and stuff, it's even funnier because he's actually a funny dude. But
Yeah,
he-
you could tell he does his homework, especially when he's announcing and stuff like that. He's actually one of my favorite people to listen to, besides obviously Rogan. Sometimes when you get the guys that were former fighters that announce, I feel like they kind of get lost in some things and go off on tangents and stuff like that. And
yeah,
Anik isn't like that. He complements Rogan very well, I think.
for sure. Yeah, he's really good at his job. But yeah. So I mean, this is the first fight on the main card, or is it the women? See, I don't know
I think
because
the women's fight
the
is the first
women.
fight on the main card. Yeah,
Okay, so we should. That is Caitlin Chukagian versus Fiorot. I don't remember her first name, but that's a tough one.
yeah.
She's a French. She's the Beast. That's what her name is, or her nickname, because she is a beast. I was watching highlights of hers the other day. I was like, holy shit! And I don't think Chukagian can handle like I don't think she can handle that kind of pressure. She's a great fighter, but I don't think she can handle that kind of pressure. Um,
Well, we were talking about coming into this when we were looking at the poster for this event, how so many fights on this card have title implications, and that's another one that, like, easily whoever wins that one could be next in line for a shot at that belt. So we'll see. To if I'm being honest, I don't know too much about the I'm gonna
Fiorot.
try and say it. No, the Chukagian.
Chukagian, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to watch that one and just see how that one goes. But yeah, those that should be a good one. And then again, title implications for that for sure.
Well, Chukagian already fought Shevchenko once, and she lost.
Yeah,
So she's only lost to Shevchenko, who is the champ right now, and then she lost to Jessica Andrade, who is a former champ. So I mean, that kind of tells you a little bit about Chukagian. She's her only
her
two losses
pedigree. Yeah.
are to the champ now and a former champ. So she does well, but I don't think she can handle what the beast is gonna throw at her because I was watching those punches, man. Oh my god. I'm like, I don't want to get hit with that. But that's definitely one of those. I mean, it could be a great fight. The problem is Chukagian's always involved in a fight that ends in a decision. She will fight till the end. She will never give up, but it's almost always a decision. She doesn't have that knockout power. She doesn't go for the submissions as like everyone. She actually gets put in submissions more than she goes for them. The last fight
Oh
I
wow.
watched of hers, she just she gets taken down very easily and she gets put in bad positions. I'll give her credit for getting out of those bad positions, but she's always winding up in a bad position, and I don't think that's a good thing when it comes to fighting this French girl because she's crazy. So that might be a good fight. A lot of the women fights, they unless they're big names, they're going to decision, and that's what kind of throws people off about it. But I respect the women too, man. They're great. I love watching their fights as well. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's the first fight on the card. So then we get to Dariush and Gamrot. Um, Gamrot's one of those guys that he's one of those guys that there's a lot of hype around him, right? Because he's a pretty decent fighter. He's got good wrestling. He likes to move forward, so that makes him, that's what gets people to want to watch him. But and he's got good submissions too. But a lot of his fights, they don't. He doesn't have a ton of finishes, so it's kind of weird that there's a lot of hype around him. I think he's just very action oriented, I guess. He likes to come forward, and I
Yeah.
think that's what people see.
Everyone's always going to appreciate the people that push the pace, and I think you nailed it on the head. He certainly does that. He's certainly really good at doing that. I agree. The fights that I've watched of his, I'm pretty sure I don't think I've ever. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've seen him finish a fight. At least the ones that I've watched.
Right.
But yeah, he is a gamer. And then for Dariush's part, man, he's sick, dude. Like I was watching the top finishes for the guys in the main card on the UFC's YouTube channel, and he's pretty slick with some of the stuff he does. I thought it was interesting though, because like watching him on Embedded, he almost looks like a trainer or something like that. Like
I
he
was
already
gonna
has like
say
gray hair and everything like that. Like he's like,
very
dude, who's this
unassuming.
old man?
Yeah. Yeah, like, "Hey, man, who are you training? Like, who's your
Exactly.
fighter?" He's like, "What the fuck? I'm the fighter." But, he's that type of dude, if you see him in the street, you're like, "Get out of here, you little prick." And then he's the guy that's gonna whoop your ass because he is a
Exactly.
badass. He's been around for a long time, and I think he's pretty underrated as far as how people talk about him. His problem is he's very quiet and he's very religious. So
Hmm.
that's something that like turns a lot of people off because it's fighting. Like, I mean, a lot of people don't put those two things together, and their favorite fighter doesn't have that about them. So for him, and
Yeah.
he's like crazy religious about it. Like he came out to the face offs after or he was at the presser, and he wearing a shirt that says Jesus. So there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. It's just that he's one of those people that's always has it out there, and it seems to turn a lot of people off. I could give a shit less if he's a good fighter, like I said before. I don't care, you know. But I think that's one of the things that keeps him like in that lower level. He's not very popular, but people know what a badass he is, and he's been around for a long time. He's on a 7 fight win streak as right now coming into this fight. So that says a lot, and he's fought a lot of big names. It's not like he's fighting cans. He's been in the UFC for quite
Exactly.
a while.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say too. Is like he's a tried and true, tested individual, right? Like he's fought some good names. He's been in some good scraps. Um, as far as him, like marketability isn't everything. At the end of the day, they're fighters, right? You're busy fighting. You could be the greatest on the microphone, or the most flashiest, or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you can't fight, like you're not going to do anything, and you can fight. So
Yeah,
we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one. I kind of don't
definitely.
know where this one's going to go. I wouldn't. This one's kind of a hard one to pick for me.
Yeah, me too. The problem with Dariush is that when he loses big time by a KO or TKO. Like, it's never like he loses by decision. A lot of his wins are by decision or sub. So, that's something to think about. Like, if Gamrot comes out and comes after him and is smart about it and technical, you
Yeah,
know, he could put
but
it
you
on
could get
him.
caught too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's an intriguing fight. It's not one of my top ones, but it's definitely a good fight out there. Um, And I mean, no matter what, I think it's gonna add to the greatness of this card if they come out to fight because a lot of the cards that get hyped up real hard can be the biggest letdowns. And I know sometimes that's because they're getting hyped so hard, but at the same time, I think it's some kind of weird curse because like these posters behind me, these are like a ton of great fights back in the day, and
Mhm.
they didn't have the kind of promotion they have now. And so I feel like because it was getting hyped in the by the hardcore fans and in the community, but I don't think it was getting hyped like overall worldwide like it is now. So it's almost like a curse where it gets hyped so much and it's like this is the best card of the year. We're over here saying it too. And it could turn out to be just a fucking fart in the wind and it just stinks.
Yeah.
So who knows? But
Yeah. It would be interesting to see. I personally don't foresee that happening just because of like the names that are on this card. Like it would be interesting to see like a stat sheet for the finish rate for everyone that's on the card because like even if you're just going by like the pay-per-view card by itself, like that's a pretty high finish rate between all those guys.
oh, no doubt. And that's what we're getting into now, starting with Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley, because Yan isn't he's a
Sugar.
he's a Yan is a he's a pretty energetic fighter, but he doesn't finish a lot. You know what I mean? Not like Sugar Sean's been finishing because
Mhm.
he's got those crazy knockouts. Eddie, what was his name? Wineland, right? Yeah, that one
Yep.
punch knockout. Holy shit, dude. I
Walk
watched that
off.
one like 3 times earlier because I forgotten how fucking nice that was. And
Yeah.
just the way he started in Dana White's Contender Series, that knockout that he had in that fight, I was like, man, this kid, I don't know. He looks like such a dork with his hair, and like he just had a few tattoos. But man, I mean, he's become a big time personality in the sport.
Yeah.
You
I
look
made
at
it
him. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I had made the joke a little while ago that he's like the 6'9" of MMA.
Yeah.
Just because he's like goofy like that and like, yeah, just the weird
Hey,
tattoos and everything going
he
on with him.
hangs out with 6ix9ine and he fucking has a 6ix9ine tattoo, so you're not far
Yep.
off. But I think Peter Yan called him the pink poodle, which is fucked up.
Wow.
But yeah, Sean O'Malley's like he's like, "Yep." I think in one of one of the embeddeds I watched, he's like, "Yep, pink poodle here," and he had like a wig on. It was funny because the wig looks
Yep.
just like his hair, like normally looks, and then he takes it off and his hair's a different color, but it still looks the same. It's funny. But
This fight is one of that I'm probably most excited about. One because for people that don't know, Sean O'Malley's from Arizona, so he's going to be representing the home state for us. I'm excited to finally see him kind of step up in competition. I think like I don't want to say been held back by the UFC, but a lot of times when you get guys that have like a lot of hype behind them that are marketable, like Sean O'Malley is for sure, the UFC will kind of do things, I think, in my opinion, right, to protect them and sort of give them fights that there no fight is ever 100% sure thing, but they definitely tend to give him things that are going to cater towards his style that are very winnable fights for him. And this fight is a huge step up in competition for him. So
yeah,
kudos to Sean for having the confidence in himself to want to step up and call out someone like Jan, because my understanding is that he was like in Peter Yan's DMs trying to goad him into taking this fight. That they went back and forth for a little bit, and then Jan actually ended up taking it. And I want to
right.
say O'Malley is what, ranked 9 in his
I
division,
think
and
so.
Jan is like 1 or 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jan is one, and I think O'Malley's like
No, he's 12. That's
12.
right, because
That's
that was,
right.
yeah, that was something that I thought was crazy about this because from my knowledge, right, and maybe you could correct me, I can't remember a fight where there was such a big discrepancy in rankings between like a guy who, like we just said, is a
Yeah.
number one ranked fighter fighting a contender that low.
Right.
So,
And I mean
big risk factor for Jan.
I give Jan credit too for taking this fight. I think he understands who Sean O'Malley is, and I think he understands, what this fight can bring for him. But I don't think he gives a shit really. I think it's more that he just wants to beat his ass because that's who Peter Yan is, And I mean, he see I saw a different side of him because I saw him. I don't know if you saw him and Aljamain Sterling had a little dapped it up and hugged it out, and
Yeah.
we're cool with each other after Jan was over there saying he's going to kill him and all of his cornermen and his whole team. So,
Yeah.
I mean that's a different side I hadn't seen from him. So, but for him to take this fight with that big of a gap between them as far as rankings go, that's a big step for O'Malley, like you said, and that's a big step backwards for Jan, especially if he loses. Think about what happens if Sean O'Malley gets one of those walk-off KOs like he's done in the past
Oh yeah,
against somebody like Jan.
and
Talk
he's
about
absolutely
catapulting.
capable of doing it.
Oh
It's
yeah, for
it's
sure.
exactly. I talking about embedded how like if he's able to pull something like that off, it just sets him into superstardom and it absolutely would do that. I think it immediately turns him, he already has like a highlight reel that's crazy. So to add someone like a name like Jan to that, I mean, that'll skyrocket him.
No doubt. That might be his Conor McGregor moment right there. That gets, because he already says he talks all the shit about being bigger than Conor already. But we all know what the Conor McGregor, life is as far as how
Yeah,
it went and
exactly.
how it goes. If you've been watching and you've paid attention, you might know how Conor McGregor came up and where he came from and how it happened. But this could be his Aldo fight. You know what I mean? Like it was for Conor. So
Absolutely.
if he does something like that, I think within the first minute of the first round, if he catches a knockout, I mean, talk about superstardom, like for sure, no doubt about it, because he's already got such a big following, you know, not to mention the actual, skills that he has because he does have a lot of skills. He's got the reach advantage for one in this fight because if you saw the stare down, Peter Young, he's
And
looking
that's what I
down.
wanted to touch on for this fight too. He has a crazy, like, you could see it in the picture. Like, look at how much longer his arms are compared to Jan's. And then this picture doesn't do it any justice, the height difference between them.
No,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
he has like the tools, and a lot of times when you see strikers that have a lot of success, they're long, lanky guys like that, and they can stay on the outside and pepper you. And O'Malley is great at doing that. When you look at the fight that he had against Wineland, he set it up with like a non-short little jab and then came across perfect, and he could certainly catch Jan with that, especially if it's early.
Yeah,
We'll see, man.
yeah.
It's
Well, and Sean O'Malley's 15-1 with his only loss being to Cheeto Vera, which that had some weirdness to
and
it
it was
because
kind of a freak accident type
yeah,
thing. I
like
mean,
he had the ankle injury. So that's I mean, a lot of people are saying some people will say that wasn't really a loss. He says it's not a loss. Now, that's just his own thing. He's got this weird mentality about it where he says he's never lost.
I happen to be a Vera fan. Got the Ruka shirt going.
Hell yeah.
Um, no, but I don't know. Looking back on that fight, I felt Cheeto was winning the fight, and that was probably, other than Jan, I think probably his biggest competitor as far as like rankings and stuff like that go into play, especially now because Cheeto has done a lot of great things since that fight. But
Yeah.
no, O'Malley is exactly where he needs to be, right? Like he needed to step up in competition. He needed to fight someone that's a real deal contender that's going to challenge him in ways that he hasn't been challenged yet. And for Jan's part, man, that guy's tough. He's a gamer. He's a smart fighter as well. So I know he's going to go in there with a great game plan. I know he's going to be looking to get takedowns and do some striking himself to set those things up. So, you know, I
Yeah.
wouldn't sleep on Jan in this fight either. I think if I was going to pick something, I don't know. I'd say if it's early and O'Malley's able to touch him up quick, O'Malley could definitely put the lights out early. But I don't know. Jan's be the for this for sure.
Yeah.
But easy to see Sean coming out on top, man. It's gonna be interesting.
Jan has a lot of decision wins. So I see the fight. If the fight goes longer, it's probably going to be looking at, Jan, but it's only a 3-round fight too. So,
Mhm.
Jan's been fighting 5-round fights for a while because he lost twice to, you know, he lost twice to Aljamain. He was the champ for a minute. And he's been fighting 5-round fights. So, and he takes the first round off a lot of times, but those are always in those 5-round fights. So if he takes that first round off
Yeah.
this fight, that's not good for him because
Well,
that
and that's the
oh
thing. He has to know he can't start slow with him.
right,
Like I think you have to pressure him, but you got to be smart about it, right? Like try and
definitely.
push him up against the fence or something. Like take away that range.
Yeah, and I mean O'Malley, like the only other two big fighters, like you said, was Cheeto Vera, and then he fought Pedro Munoz, but that was
Mhm.
that what was it, eye poke, that no decision that it came to, so that kind of sucked because you didn't really get to see. A lot of people were saying Munoz was winning that fight, and that O'Malley looked kind of confused because he hadn't really fought someone like that, and besides Cheeto, that came out and came at him like that. It looked like he was a bit kind of lost, but he can't do that against Jan because Jan will put the pressure on him. So I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
I like this
Totally.
fight. I like this fight a lot, and I'm pretty excited to see what happens because I know, like my daughter Trin, she likes Sean O'Malley a lot, so I know she's gonna be rooting for him. And I like O'Malley too a lot. Arizona kid, I love that. And I don't know, Jan kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit because I mean, just look at the way he's standing in that picture. I mean, that just kind of tells you something about him. You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of like it's kind of like a TJ Dillashaw type thing. You know what I mean? He's always like
Yeah.
trying to do
I
this.
don't I don't know, man. To me, he kind of looks like he's doing an impression of your boy Nate Diaz in that pose right there.
Oh, well, that's the Wish version. See, I think it almost looks worse when he's actually like all ripped up. Like Nate looks like just a dude on the street doing that. So it's like a different effect, I guess. I see what you're saying though. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
downplay it. Speaking of TJ though, that's the next fight. So the first title fight on the card, TJ Dillashaw versus Aljamain Sterling. What do you
Yeah.
think about Aljo being the champ, especially how he became champ and what he's done against Jan? What are your thoughts on that?
So, just speaking for that first fight, right, where he became the champion. Um, so there's like two ways to go about it for me, right? It's like this guy's a fighter. He's been fighting for a while now. He's coming out of a with Ray Longo around a group of guys that have credentials and have been champions before with like the Chris Weidmans and Matt Serras and stuff like that. So there's legacy behind him with that kind of stuff. I don't know, man. If I would have won a belt like that, and obviously this is me, I'm Joe Schmo. I've never, put on gloves or gotten into a octagon or anything like that. But I wouldn't want to win a title like that. But there's also the flip side of that where it's like, dude, these guys work so hard, and maybe that's not the way that you wanted to win or how you wanted to catch a belt. But at the end of the day, like becoming champ is what these guys want. This is what they're doing. It changes their lives, right? It means money. It means security for the fam. There's a lot that comes with that. And that being said, he came back in the second fight and he won.
And
So
people downplay that win, but because it was a close fight and everybody was saying, "Oh, he was getting his ass whooped in that first fight already." So he got lucky that illegal strike. The problem is Jan didn't have any remorse for that strike. And I think that's what rubbed me the wrong way because
exactly.
as much as somebody doesn't like it shouldn't be something that someone's proud of to win a belt that way, which Aljo wasn't that proud of it. He got, the slack for taking pictures, but his explanation was that's what, his team and his friends are like, you have to enjoy it no matter what. You got the belt, whether you like the way you got it or not. So
Yeah.
they were
And
pushing him to do that.
that was my problem with it. I think that's what rubbed me the wrong way about it was like again, and this is just how I would approach it, right? Like if it was me, I think I would have handled it like I would have immediately gotten on the mic with Joe Rogan and been like, "Look, I know that I'm the winner tonight. I don't want to win the belt like this. I definitely think that we should run this fight back," which is what ultimately ended up happening. And let's see what really happens when we're able to go from bell to bell or finish each other. And I think like that would have garnered him um a lot more with like the fans and stuff like that. if he would have handled it that way, I think it would have done him some favors. But at the end of the day, he came back and he won that second fight.
For
You could
sure.
say what you want to say about it, but he got that decision.
Yeah. And I've heard Ray Longo talk about it. I've heard Matt Serra talk about it, and I've heard Aljo talk about it. How you know at first he didn't even want the belt. He didn't want to hold it. He didn't want to do anything with it. He didn't want to take pictures with it. They kind of forced him to. People put those out there, and then he got all the backlash. And you know what? He said, "Fuck it. I'm gonna lean into it. I'm gonna be the heel, and I'm gonna say fuck all these people. I got my belt, and now I'm gonna give Peter Yan shit about whether or not he's gonna get the rematch." And some people like that. Some people like that about him. That he did all that, and he decided to do the heel turn that way, and just lean into it. But either which way, he is the champ. He earned it the second fight, and I think he's a great all around fighter. I don't see any problem with him.
There's definitely something to be said for like the mental aspect of being prepared to fight, right? And he definitely did himself some favors by um choosing to be celebratory about it, especially after talking to his team, because it's like there's enough things that are working against you, especially at this level when you're fighting, at the top five guys all the time, because he's at
Right.
that level. It's like you don't want to give yourself extra stuff to worry about and stress about that are going to distract you from your ultimate goals. And, I can understand why the team and the people around him wanted him to feel like that. And dude, I wouldn't say that he's a villain or turned himself into like a heel or anything like that, because he's an exciting fighter too, like in his own right. He's built himself up. Like the Yan fights, they weren't the greatest, but ultimately at the end of the day, dude, he's a champion. There's only a select few number of guys that can say that have come through this. Like think about all the great names that have come through that never got to touch a belt, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
And
something to be proud of for sure.
people are gonna be assholes and say it's a fluke if TJ comes over and takes the belt from him and stuff. But I still think even if he loses this fight, I still think he's got a lot behind it. He's still young. He still has a lot of fight in him, and I think that he's gonna be okay. So
Well, it's something to be said for like the matchmaking of the UFC and like their marketing genius, right? Because you have a guy like Aljamain Sterling who, for the reasons we just talked about, is kind of set up to be disliked. And then you take him and you pair him against a fighter that is probably one of the most disliked guys because of his history
yep,
with PEDs and everything like that. So you set him up against a guy that's probably, an even bigger heel than he is, to try and,
yeah.
garner him a little bit more favor. So
So
smart matchmaking, man.
it is, and you know what? I didn't even think of it that way, and that's a damn good point. And for context, for everybody listening, I forget to do this sometimes. For context, if you don't know, Aljamain Sterling won the belt because of an illegal knee to the head. Right? It was a knee, not a kick. Yeah, it was a knee.
Yeah,
Illegal
illegal
knee
knee
to.
in a fight that arguably he was going to lose.
Oh, he was definitely
With
gonna lose.
Yeah, we kind of, you
I
you
feel
don't want to
bad for
say
saying it.
definitively, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was going to lose that fight. And
If
then the illegal knee happened and he ended up becoming champion.
Yes, and then for TJ Dillashaw, he was out for 2 years because he popped dirty for EPO. So he dropped dirty, and and the good thing for him is that he came out, he fessed up, and he said he fucked up. He said he was trying to get past, or he was trying to get through the weight cut because he cut down to 125 to fight Cejudo, and
Mhm.
and that was like a big mistake, man. He should have never done that. That was a dumbass thing to do. But TJ Dillashaw is one of those hard headed motherfuckers that he's crazy in training. He's crazy when it comes to the beefs that he has with people, and he's crazy when it comes to his fights. So he got popped for EPO, and he got 2 years out. So then he comes back. He fights Corey Sandahagen, who's a badass in his own right, and he gets that win, but he doesn't look like him. Like I don't think he looked like himself. I think he looked a little slower than usual, and I think that he barely snuck away with that win. But he also hurt his knee, so
Mhm.
he actually is coming off a surgery. So I don't even know how it's been. What 2 year, like 2+ years where he's had one fight, and then he was out for those 2 years, has the one fight, and then he's been out for a while now because of the surgery, and he screwed
Hmm.
up his knee. So now he's coming in directly into a title fight. So it's like, and he's old for MMA. He's like
Yeah.
37, I think, something like
Yeah.
that. So I
Well,
mean,
there's
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's definitely something to be said for not being active, right? Because fighters talk about having ring rust all the time, and that's definitely going to be a factor for him. You got to stay active, and I mean, like you could look at the guy and tell that he's staying in the gym, and I'm sure Dwayne Ludwig, has him putting in the work. But there's a big difference between like doing pad work and sparring in the gym against like your team and actually getting in there and fighting. You know what I mean? It's much different. You have to get those rounds in, and we talked about him a little earlier, but Conor McGregor, I think, he suffered from not having that stuff and having so much time off and being around or not being as active as you should be because this game will pass you by, man. You can't relax in this stuff, not at this level.
And that's what happened to Dominic Cruz, who, by the way, doesn't believe in ring rust. He'll tell you over and over and over again how ring rust doesn't exist, at least to him. But I think, like you said, the game will pass you by. People are going to catch up. If you're ahead of the game, but you get hurt over and over and over again, or you get suspended because of
Yep.
whatever issues you have, 2 years go by and you got guys coming up that you didn't think were shit when you were like when you
Yep.
walked out, and then they're
Well, and
coming up and they're
especially
doing way better than you did.
especially when you're a guy like a TJ Dillashaw who was a champion. So not only are guys coming up and getting better, but they're coming up getting better with the desire to beat you. They're working on beating you in your style. What are your weaknesses? Trying to come up with game plans to take something away from you. So yeah, when you're not active through all that, yeah, I think it's a lot working against you. That being said, though, um, for me, Dillashaw has in Dwayne Ludwig probably one of the most, I would say, underrated trainers that there is out there. And Eric, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, Dwayne Ludwig, I don't think he has a lot of other bigger prospects. I think TJ Dillashaw is kind of like his main guy,
Yep.
and that could kind of benefit Dillashaw because you have someone who's a hell of a striking coach for sure that can kind of help you focus on um, your strengths, and more importantly, and I think I'll say this about TJ is that he's very open. I think, maybe not in interviews, but I think he knows what his weaknesses are and where he's not necessarily the best at, and he works
Right.
on that. So,
Yeah.
Dwayne Lugwood being in his corner, I think, is a big factor. Like I said, I think he's an underrated coach, and I'm certainly expecting Dillashaw to come in ready. I think Dillashaw, you have to give like a striking advantage to him for sure, and then Aljamain with the grappling and the submissions, I think he edges Dillashaw and that stuff. So it kind of is like so to me a little bit of like a grappler versus a striker type matchup.
Well, Dillashaw is talking about how he's going to come in and show him what a real D1 wrestler is about. So
Hmm.
we'll see how that goes down, because Aljamain holds his wrestling in high regard. So and his submissions too, for sure. That's definitely something he's very very good at. He's always finding somebody. They call him the human backpack. He's
Yeah,
kind of a Damian Maya type, where if he finds your back, he's gonna snatch it up, and then he's gonna put his arms around your neck and choke your ass out. So that's something he's very, very good at. And he always sets it up with the wrestling. But TJ claims that he's better at wrestling and that he's going to come in and make him look like a bitch. So those are
yeah.
his
I think
words.
like the kids like to say nowadays, that's cat.
Yep.
That's how you say it, right?
Well, no cap.
There you go. That's it.
You're younger than me, fool. You should know.
I
You're
don't know, man.
like, I know. I try to stay away from the stuff. I caught myself earlier saying something, and I was like, why did I just say that? I don't ever say that. Fucking weird. It is what it is. Getting old sucks. But whatever.
Yeah. So let
Anyway,
me ask you, man, how do you see this fight playing out? Because this one's a pretty interesting one for me.
yeah. Um, I gotta say, like, I think Eljo is. definitely, I think he's just pumped up and ready for this fight because of what it's about, because of who it's against, and because of all the shit that TJ's talking. I think he's out to prove that his championship's not a fluke, and I think that he's just wanting to shut everybody up. So and make sure that TJ looks like the dumbass that he is, according to him. So
He could certainly turn it into a statement fight for him.
yeah, and I think Aljamain has, he's kind of like O'Malley. He's got that reach. He's got those long limbs, and I think he could snatch up any limb off of TJ, or put him in a choke and make him tap. I think it's possible, and I think it's more likely. I think TJ has had too much time out of the octagon. I think he's getting up there in age for the sport, obviously, but I just don't know that he's gonna. Judging by his last fight against Sandhagen, like I said, he didn't look like the dominant fighter that he used to
Yeah.
be. It looked like he lost a little bit of a step, and maybe that's because of the injury that happened or whatnot. But I kind of feel like Aljo's gonna edge this one out, even if it's a
Yeah.
decision, even if it goes all five, and maybe it's a little boring. I think he's gonna take it. I think if TJ catches Aljo early, that's how he's gonna take it. The
Yeah.
deeper it goes in, I don't think he's gonna have a chance. I think he's gonna lose a step throughout the fight. His cardio's not gonna hold up, and I think
One
Aljo will catch him in something.
One thing to say about this fight too that I think is interesting, or something to pay attention to, I should say, is Dillashaw can get reckless, right?
Yeah,
Like if he starts to smell blood in the water and thinks that a finish is there or available, he can get careless, and that could lead to you getting caught. And Sterling, I don't think is the type of guy that he's going to want to do that with,
right.
um, especially coming off of like layoffs and injuries, like you were talking about. So that could be a factor in this fight too.
Oh, and I almost forgot. Aljamain's been knocked out cold before by Marlon Moraes.
Mhm.
So, I mean that's a factor too because he's had his lights put out once before by somebody that's kind of like TJ. That's Marlon fights a little bit like TJ. He comes at you and he's constantly putting pressure, and that's what TJ does. So, yeah, it's possible because TJ can throw some, he can throw some quick and hard punches, and if he lands one, he can put him out. But he's got to
Yeah.
get past those long limbs of Sterling too. Do you have a favorite in this, or are you just kind of there to watch?
Um, this one I think is kind of going to be another one that's just exciting. I don't think that there's going to be a loser for this one as far as the fans go. I think it should be a good fight. Um, Looking at like the buildups and the embeddeds, both these guys usually are in awesome shape, but like, dude, they're in like some crazy shape for this one, especially Sterling, dude. That guy
Yeah.
looks like he is taking this super serious, like he's ready for this. Um, so yeah, we'll see. I think if I was going to bet on the fight, I'd probably bet on Dillashaw just because I think he has that KO power still, and he could catch him early. But it wouldn't surprise me if Sterling pulls it out either. But like I said, I think for me the favorite in this fight has to be Dillashaw by an early stoppage, TKO
Okay.
or KO.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's tough, but I'm excited for this one too. This first, I mean, two title fights on this card, and they're both going to be bangers. I think if all the rest of the fights suck and these two fights are great, I could care less how shitty
Yeah,
the rest of the
exactly.
fights are. And this next fight is for a belt, oh, as well, the vacant belt, by the way, because Oliveira missed weight last time he fought, so he wasn't even eligible to win the belt. He was he stripped? Yeah, he was stripped, right? Did he have the belt?
So no, so he what happened was Charles Oliveira missed weight. So the fight was still a title fight, where if Oliveira won, the belt would be vacated or remain vacant. But if the
Yeah,
other guy won, that person would become the champion.
right.
Oliveira obviously won the fight, and now, um, like we were talking about, the belt is still vacated. But this is still a championship fight.
Yeah.
So whoever wins this fight will then be the champion for this division.
Undisputed. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. And a lot of people like forget that Oliveira even doesn't have the belt right now. Like because it was such a weird thing last time. And he was off by what? I mean, less than a pound. I think it was like half a pound or something like that. And there was a whole scale controversy that other
Yeah, I
people were
want
talking
that
about.
fight. I think there was a number of people that had weight issues. I think it was
Yeah,
like four separate fighters, including a heavyweight, which you never see that happen.
right.
Missed weight.
Actually, wasn't that the last episode you were on? I think it was. No, no.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that was
I think.
Chimaev and Nate Diaz. That was the
Oh yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So some weird stuff with weight misses and stuff like that. But it sucks that they kind of stripped him because it was a great fight. What was it against Gaethje, right?
Mhm.
I believe so. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know, man. He's on an 11 fight win streak right now. That's pretty crazy. I saw a graphic earlier that was like he's one under the most wins for the most consecutive wins in his
Yeah, so that's
division.
going to be interesting about this fight too. So if Oliveira wins, he'll tie the longest win streak for this division, and I want to say the longest win streak,
Khabib,
period, with yeah, Khabib.
Khabib and
Um,
someone else, someone another big name, where they're like tied for the amount of wins.
in
I
the
don't remember
division.
who else. Yeah, for the
I
most
should know
amount. I
this.
think there was two. I know I should know this too, but I can't remember. And I just saw it earlier today. But I know
Yeah.
Khabib was the first one in line that they were showing, which is weird because this Makachev is Khabib's protege. So if he beats Khabib's protege, he ties Khabib for the most wins, most consecutive
Mhm.
wins in that division in history. So that's pretty crazy.
Well, Makhachev would move to 10 fights, which is
Right.
pretty crazy too.
No, no, no.
And
He's on a 7 fight win streak right now.
I thought they said 9. My bad. Um, I think it's pretty interesting too, like how the path of Makhachev's uh, path to a title potentially is mirroring Khabib's a lot. Like they both kind of were coming in when they weren't necessarily too high up in the rankings. Um, they're both kind of coming in sort of like with the same sort kind of criticisms where the people are saying like, yeah, you guys are like on big win streaks, but you haven't necessarily fought like big names and stuff like that. So he's dealing with a lot of that. But I mean, his work speaks for itself, man. Like the guy's a freaking assassin. Like we talked about it in the beginning of the show. Like these Dagestani guys, man, like they're the real deal, man. When you dude, Sambo, I think first of all is like Sambo's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when you start adding like the striking into it, like where it's like you not only do you have to like contend with these guys on the feet now, but then like if you get on the ground with them, good luck. You know, those guys are tough, man. Like
When everyone's
they're
saying
doing
that
something right over there.
Makachev has way better striking than Khabib ever had. So that's something that, makes me wonder what he's going to do with it. If he's going to stick to, what they call father's plan, which is, control him, take him down, control him, get in the position and either ground and pound him out or, get the submission. Um, but I don't know. I mean, because with Oliveira's another dude. It's like the long limbed tall guys that are fighting
Yeah.
in this card.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if Makachev is going to lean on his striking a little more for this fight, just because, and obviously Makachev's grappling speaks for itself, and his submissions are not only are his submissions good, but they're scary. Like the way that he locks people up and how he twists people up. I forget what the highlight was I think it was Dan Hooker that he caught. That thing looked nasty.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like I'm wondering if he's going to rely on his striking a little more, just because Oliveira is amazing on the ground too.
right.
So Oliveira is one of those guys like he could take him down, and they don't make mistakes. But if he makes one mistake, Oliveira could catch you in something easy too.
Yeah, that's what makes this fight intriguing because, well, the other thing about Oliveira is that he gets hit a lot. He gets hit a lot
Yeah.
all the time. Like he's constantly taking damage. He gets beat up on the feet. And he's got great striking himself. He's got a lot of KOs, and they're always like nasty KOs too. So, but if Islam has a plan to maybe try to get his striking to overcome Oliveira's, it's possible because Oliveira gets hit so much. But like you said, we go on the ground. That's where Makachev. That's what they do. They suffocate you. They keep you there. They frustrate you. They punish you. And they're grinding on you no matter what. And Oliveira is looking. He'll let them get him on his back, and then he's looking for submissions left and right because he's a high level jiu-jitsu practitioner. So when it comes down to it, this could get interesting if it goes to the ground because
Yeah.
it might be a stalemate and it might get fucking boring. That's what sucks because it has that potential if it goes to the ground
Well,
that way.
and then like you could probably speak on this a little bit too, but I think there's a bit of a rivalry between sambo guys and jiu-jitsu guys as to, they'll go back and forth about which grappling art
Right.
is the best and the most effective. I think famously, what there was a shirt that I want to say Khabib wore that said, if sambo was easy, it would be called Brazilian
Yep.
jiu-jitsu or something like that. So
Yep.
yeah, they
They're
might
hard.
make it a point to say, "Hey, let's do this. Let's go to the ground and let's see what's up. Who's really better?"
Yeah, they're like I said, they're hard people, man, and that's the mentality that they have. They're like, if you don't do what we do, you're a bunch of pussies.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's true, man. Like he's got that Khabib style control. They wrap your feet up as they're taking you down, and you're like a snake. You got no legs and no feet anymore. They become combined in between, you know, his legs, and they don't let you move. And that's what I mean by frustrating and suffocating you because I would feel claustrophobic. I'd be like, get me the fuck out of here. I'll just tap now so I can get out of this because this sucks. Because
Yeah.
that's what it looks like every time Khabib did it, and Makachev does it too, man. I mean,
There's been a couple fighters that fought uh with Khabib, and then afterwards when they had interviews that and were guys that were known for having like either good takedown defense or being able to get up after being taken down, that were saying that they had never felt pressure the way that they felt from like Khabib's style,
oh yeah.
the way that he takes you down and how he uses his legs to kind of pin you down. It's almost like he has four arms.
The control is the thing. And I mean, he has dominant control like that when he's sitting there saying, just let it go, just tap, just give up. This is mine. And
Yeah,
he's over there talking shit to Dana White while he's fighting Michael what the hell is his name? I forgot his name. Anyway,
Chandler.
that's like no,
Oh
not
no,
Chandler. Mike, damn it. I just had his name in my head. Anyway, who cares? It's one of those highlights that I know I can't remember. It's gonna bug me. It's one of those great
yeah, I
highlights
can't.
though, where everybody talks about where he's talking to Dana, and then he's telling him to give up because he's like, "Come on, give up. This is mine. I deserve this." It's like, come on, man. Not only are you just kicking the shit out of this guy on the ground right now, he's throwing elbows in between saying this shit. So he's just busting him up, and and then he's making him feel bad because he's like, just give up. You're gonna lose.
Well, it's like these guys are so good, man. It's like you know exactly what their game plan's going to be. You know exactly what they're kind of try and do, and you can work all you want to work on trying to stop it. And when it push comes to shove, you can't. I mean, that's how
Yeah,
good these guys are. That's how dominant their grappling is. So we'll see,
yeah,
man. This fight's going to be nuts.
it is. Like I said, it has potential to be a little boring to some people because if it winds up on the ground, it's going to be a lot of groundwork. But I think it's going to be like technical groundwork where it's either going to be Makachev, just wrapping him up and ground and pounding him out, or it's going to be Oliveira throwing lots and lots of submission attempts and changing positions and trying to get the dominant one so that he can sink something in. So I think it's going to be exciting no matter what. I really,
Yeah.
really hope this one doesn't turn out to be a stinker because that would really suck. And I hope there's no eye pokes or illegal strikes because fuck all that. I want this fight to go all the way. I want a full on, like, obvious decision and end to this fight so we can have a true champ and see where it goes from there.
Yeah. I think I don't know. For my part, I kind of there's two things that I'm thinking about, right? And the first thing is for Makachev's part, coming into this is like the weight of the moment and having that crowd there and all the hoopla about you fighting and representing like a country in that part of the world. I'm wondering how he's going to respond to that because it kind of again like talking about the mirror career paths with Khabib. Khabib kind of had the same sort of thing happen to him when he fought Connor, and not necessarily with someone like talking to him and barking at him all the time, but the weight of like a big moment, right? How is Makachev going to respond to that? Like, how is he going to respond to the first time fighting for a title? How is he going to respond like being such like a heavy favorite and having so many expectations and so much pressure on you for that moment? Um, if he mirrors Khabib, he'll rise in an incredible way and just do what he's always done. But that's a factor for sure. That's something to think about. How's that going to weigh on him? How is he going to respond to all that? Um, for Oliveira's part, you touched on it when you were talking earlier. He gets touched a lot, and he it's almost like he's been able to like I don't want to say squeak out these wins, but he's been able to like grind out these wins and finishes by the skin of his teeth sometimes.
Yep.
It's like he gets into these fights where it's like, who's tougher, me or you? We're about to find out. And then they just go at it, and what happens, happens. I don't, he can't do that against Makachev, I don't think. I think he really has to be calculated. He really has to be smart. And Oliveira's a gamer, man, and that toughness can work for him where if he's diligent and tries to stick to a good game plan, and he has good striking. Hopefully, he can kind of touch him up and maybe try and keep Makachev on his heels a little bit, and get something going for himself where he can eventually try and get a finish or grind out a decision. So we'll see, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to have someone that in my opinion, someone that's lower ranked, that hasn't fought as stiff a competition, be a favorite because I think Makachev is certainly the favorite for this fight.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's no, it's one of those things. I was just thinking right now that what you're saying about Oliveira. I mean, he uses his striking to get in, and then and he basically climbs people like a tree to get to their back and throw in a choke or something. I watched his highlights of all of his finishes or all of his, and that's what you saw a lot of. So, but the thing is he going to be able to stop, do anything of the same sort with Makachev when Makachev's going to be putting that forward pressure, throwing in the takedown attempts. If he makes a mistake with that takedown attempt, though, Oliveira's going to put himself in position to jump on his back and climb around and put him in a position where he might be able to get that sub. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. Honestly, I think it's going to be exciting, and I think it's going to be well worth the money for buying the pay per view for sure. And being the main event, I think there's no missing with this main and co-main here. I think we're gonna get some great fights out of both of them, as long as there's no stupid eye pokes or any of that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be happy with the outcome.
When Oliveira, for his part, like for good or for better or for worse, like he just seems to have like this unwavering confidence in himself right now, and rightfully so. I think he's ready, man. He seems like he's just all about getting into those wars. I don't think he's going to be intimidated. I think that he expects to win, and he's going to be ready to go in and do exactly that.
No doubt. Yeah. So everybody that wants to watch, make sure you remember that this is going to be coming on during the day because it's going to be prime time for Abu Dhabi, not for us. So whatever area you're in, you got to remember it's 11 a.m. Arizona time, which is what I don't even know what time zone we're
Well, it
in.
would pick off. It would kick off for them, I think, like 7 their time, which would make it 11 a.m. our time.
Yeah. So whatever time zone we're in, Arizona time, figure it out. I'm not here to do that for you.
Mountain
But
Standard, I believe.
there it is. Anyway, yeah, just be ready because this is gonna be a damn good fight, and I'm planning on
Now, here we go, Eric.
yeah.
Who's your favorite for this one? Who do you think is going to pull this one out?
Uh, Shit. See, this is always what I fail to think about in the end because I'm always trying to think about the strengths and weaknesses of both of them. I'm gonna say because okay, so here's the thing. I think Makachev has more work to do and a little more proving to do. I don't believe that he doesn't deserve this now, but I do believe that it's okay if he loses because he's gonna keep working and he's gonna just come right back. So I think he's
I agree with
okay.
that.
I think if Oliveira loses, I think it's gonna put him on a downward spiral because of just the recent history of things and how things have gone down. And I think that I mean, it took him 28 fights to get to a title shot. That's fucking insane. He had too many ups and downs. And I think that I want him if you I don't know if you saw when he first won the belt, the crazy like welcoming he got from his hometown and just how emotional he was. Like, dude, I can't get that picture out of my head. And maybe I shouldn't be thinking about those things when it comes to watching these fights. But this is what happens when you go deep like I do and you see everything and so I just want to see him get the belt back, maybe defend a couple times, and then it's like what happens happens. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
pulling for Oliveira, like regardless of every all the breakdown and everything that could happen. I think I'm pulling for him just a tiny bit more, which is crazy because everybody that knows me knows I'm a big Khabib fan, and this is his
Yeah, I'm
protege that he's
surprised.
fighting. So I have a lot of respect for the Dagestani guys, and regardless of the stupid hate that people give these guys, I have a lot of respect for them and I like them. And I love Khabib. I always have. And this is his protege and whatnot. But I just don't think that I don't think that it's his time. I think it's Oliveira's time to get that belt back. Uh, that was unfairly taken from him. I think. I feel like what happened with all that is kind of shitty. And yeah, he should have made weight, but I think that there was something else going on there that was I don't know if everybody's gonna ever know. But either way, I'd like to see him get it back, and I'd like to see him keep it for a little while at least, because I think once he loses the belt, it's gonna go downhill a bit. That's what happens to
Yeah.
these guys, especially when it's taken this long to get there.
Well, another thing about this fight that I think is cool on both sides is so if Makachev wins, it basically it opens up the whole division, switches things up, and there's a lot of crazy matchups that are gonna happen, and then it changes um uh title fight implications for other fights that are coming up. And the same thing if Oliveira wins. If Oliveira wins, I think there's some kind of built-in challenges that he'll have next up that are pretty interesting. Depending on how like Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler goes, that could be an interesting one for him. But I expect whoever the winner of this is going to get the winner of that fight. Um,
Mm-mm.
no?
Volkanovski. That's what we forgot to talk about.
Oh,
Volkanovski.
yeah.
So that guy deserves a lot of credit because he is the pound for pound number one fighter in the entire UFC right now. And he is out there making weight and being the backup fighter in Abu Dhabi of all fucking places.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
I
Okay.
just saw my note about that and I'm like, how did we forget to talk about that?
And I literally just watched it in the embedded too. And
Yeah.
yeah, he talks about it. He says it into the camera. He goes, "Look, he's like, I'm here. I want to be busy." And he says it. He's like, "I don't want to be busy just in one division. I want to be busy in both divisions." So,
Yep.
yeah, man, that guy's a gamer too, dude.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot about that.
And he used to weigh like 210 pounds, and now he's the 145 champ. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like, I don't even understand how that's possible. He used to be a rugby player. So I know there's this thing going around where people say he was like 240 pounds. He cleared it up. He said he was like 208, 210, which is still a lot though, considering he fights at 145. Like, that's insane. But
definitely.
for him to be the pound for pound number one fighter, to be a backup and make weight and go all the way to fucking Abu Dhabi, like, come on, man. Like, talk about somebody who talks the talk and walks the walk. He's like, I want to stay busy, I
Oh
want to
yeah,
be busy, and I want to be a double champ. And he's putting in the work. So anybody that wants to downplay that can fuck off, because I think that's some bullshit if you think it's stupid. I think it's bullshit if you think he's like not worth it. He's definitely a great backup, and I think if anybody thinks it's not worth giving him the an immediate title shot for the winner of this fight is crazy. But the only problem with that is that there in I think it's February and March or January and February, I don't remember, but they're going to Perth, Australia, I think in February, and then I think in March they're going to Brazil. So this
Oh wow.
causes problems because if he's supposed to get the next fight, are they going to do it in Perth or are they going to do it in Brazil? And then on top of that, this is if Oliveira wins. So if Oliveira wins, he's going to want to do it in Brazil because he's going to want to want to be able to defend his title in his home, in his home country. But also, you know,
Especially after coming and doing this fight in Abu
no
Dhabi,
doubt.
he's gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I just did this for you guys, throw me a bone," type
Yep.
thing. Um, Oliveira did say during the, uh, um, pre-fight interviews, though, that, like, he was more than willing to come out here and, same for Makhachev was saying that he was more than willing to do it in Brazil, so, yeah, it would I can't
And
believe I
well,
didn't think of that, but yeah, that's crazy that that's looming over this fight.
yeah. And the other problem though is that Oliveira mentioned, "Oh, I'll go to Australia and fight for the 145-pound belt." And I'm like, "No, bro. You missed weight." Okay, that's one time I will say I'll hold it against him. Like, you can't go down and weight. You missed weight and lost the belt. No matter which way you look at it, no matter how much you look into that, the surface level thing about that is that that's how he lost the belt, is that he missed weight. So he couldn't win his belt, that he couldn't keep his belt that time. So don't talk about going down. Let's not do that. Let's wait and see what happens. And if you win the belt, then talk about how you're going to work out the fight with Volkanovski after that. Maybe he defends the 145 belt in Australia. Hopefully, he doesn't get too hurt. Maybe a quick finish, and then they turn it around in a few months so that Oliveira is not sitting for too long and holding up the division. Maybe that's the right
Yeah.
way to do it. But this all just hinges on whether or not Oliveira wins. If Makachev wins, then I think it's obvious we
It's a
do.
whole new world, yeah.
Yeah, they're fighting in Abu Dhabi now. So if Makachev wins, give Volkanovski the fight in Perth in February or whatever month it is, and there you go. The only problem is we're holding up the 145 division, but you know, it is what it is.
Mhm.
So,
No, that I mean, if that happens, then you just create some different fights at 145, and then all of a sudden you potentially clear up some contenders or emerge with new contenders.
yeah.
So
Yeah, either way, I can't, like you said, I can't believe we forgot about that too. Volkanovski, I've got it right here. Next 155 title shot. And the other thing I forgot is that the winner of O'Malley versus Jan gets the did we mention that gets a bantamweight title shot?
I believe I touched on it. Yeah,
Okay.
that
Okay, good.
I think it probably depends a little bit more on who wins, but yeah, you wouldn't there wouldn't be any argument if either one of those guys coming out of it with the win gets
Yeah.
the next
I,
shot.
I'm hearing that's the real deal, is that whoever wins that fight gets the next title shot. And that's pretty nuts when it comes to O'Malley. Because talk about shooting up like big time. From 12
Exactly.
to fucking title, a title fight. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So
Props to the kid, man. Baptism by fire. Like he doesn't seem shook by the moment, and he's going after it for better for worse. And just like we were talking about with Makachev, right? Like these young guys that sometimes when like you're that early in your career, if you have a big loss, ultimately it can be a good thing for you. Like it kind of happened a little bit with GSP when he lost to Matt Hughes the first time.
yeah,
He almost needed that to happen to him for a little bit so that he could reach like that full potential and see what he was capable of. And sometimes you need those things to happen to you to give you that extra motivation to, you know, keep you honest and working hard. So
right.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the shit about O'Malley is that, he's had it easy and he's been built up. So for him to not have a lot of big fights under his belt. Same thing with Makachev, though. It's kind of the same thing. You know, you're getting a title fight when people don't believe that your schedule has been very hard. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that it's total cans that they've been fighting, but they definitely haven't fought big names, a lot of big names, like most of these guys have that wind up
Yeah,
in, you
for
know,
sure.
in title fights. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. But anyway, I always like to remind everybody, don't forget that it's early because they'll be trying to go at 7 o'clock our time saying, I'm about to watch the fights, and then realize it's not on because you'll be watching a replay. Or you'll be watching it after the fact and you might find out who won beforehand. So that's what I'm always worried about. That's why I'm like, fights like this, I have to watch like as it happens because they're too big and I don't want to find out on social media who the fuck won. That's gonna make me
Yeah,
mad.
exactly.
So there was a couple other things I wanted to touch on before we wrap this up. We've been going for a while. I didn't even realize what time it was, but that's what happens when you get wrapped up. There's a lot to talk about
Exactly.
with this card. So, and I've said it before, you're one of those people that definitely gets me talking even more because you bring up good points and you always have something good to say. So I appreciate that. Uh,
Happy
I'm
to do
sure
it.
I'm sure the audience likes it too. The flow of the conversation is good. So it's nice. Have you heard about have you heard about Dana White's slap fighting competition that he is going to be starting?
No.
No? Oh my god, dude.
I have no interest in that whatsoever.
I
Like,
know.
just it sounds stupid.
So I don't know why, because Dana White's usually one of those guys that's gonna be like, "What the fuck are we doing here? Like, this is bullshit," because that's kind of how he is. Yeah,
You know,
apparently,
for someone that claims to not entertain bullshit, he entertains a bunch of bullshit.
no doubt, no doubt. Hey, and the weird thing is apparently Lorenzo Fertitta's going in with him as a partner on this, doing a
So,
slap
like,
fight
what's the
league,
premise? Like, are they
dude.
gonna have, like, just, like, Joe Schmoes doing it, or
Don't know. I don't know. I just know it's official, and I guess they're gonna be doing events at the Apex or some shit. So I wasn't sure if you heard about it. This just came out the other day, like officially. It's been talked about a
see,
little bit here and there.
this is what pisses me off sometimes in this game, right? It's like, if you wanna be taken seriously as a league and stuff like that, it's like you can't make up new belts. You can't, like, just, like, these
You didn't
freak
like the
show
BMF
fights that
belt?
come down the I mean,
I'm just kidding. I
I
know I
get
know
it's
exactly what you're saying.
it's cool and everything, but I'm like, you don't I don't need those extra things to get hype for a good fight, right? Like, Nate Diaz versus Gamebred is already an awesome fight. I don't need an extra made up belt to get hyped about that.
Yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? That's a good fight all by itself. You don't need to
Right.
this extra hoopla. And UFC does that, man. And Dana's like, I I love him, but I hate him because it's like, I don't know. He's sort of hypocritical in, like, some of the stuff that he does. Like, he was famously quoted as saying, like, "Oh, well, we're never gonna do, like, the women fighting and that sort of thing." And then, he met Ronda Rousey, and what happened, and
Not only
she
does he bring
skyrocketed.
not only does he bring her in, but he just straight up lays a belt on her shoulder and says, "You're the fucking champ, inaugural
Yeah,
champ." Like, the
yeah.
fuck? Like, no, you
And
make
then when,
people
like,
fight for that.
and obviously, like, I watched it and I was
Well,
glued to the
yeah.
screen for it because the spectacle is awesome. But, like, things like Mayweather and McGregor, like, there's no, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, that'll never
everyone
happen.
knew that that was like a freak show type thing, but it
Right.
happened, and it was marketable, and it got the world, talking and watching. But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, how much time did that take away from, like, Connor's career that he could have been, fighting other contenders, or, God forbid, defending a belt.
More than once
Yeah. Well, he
because he didn't
defended a
really ever
belt.
do
He
that.
never. He never
No.
defended a belt.
Oh, that's
He
that's
only
true.
ever won them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he
true.
never defended anything.
Damn, I gave him too much credit.
So yeah, like, doing stuff like that, man, you can miss me with that stuff. That's why, like, I don't pay attention to the Paul brothers stuff, man. It's like, it's just I don't know. It's not for me.
Well, Anderson Silva that brings a whole new level. Like, okay, so watching Ben Askren, I was like, what the fuck is happening here? This is stupid because I don't care if Jake Paul's a real fighter, a good fighter, or a real good fighter, or any of that bullshit. I don't care. Ben Askren is not a goddamn striker. He's not. He's a grappler and a wrestler, a well known, well decorated wrestler. Like, why the fuck are you getting in a boxing match? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? So I watched
Well,
that. It was what it
they know
was.
what they're doing, dude.
I
He
know.
knows exactly, and there's a reason why he backed out of the fight where he was going to fight the first legitimate boxer. Probably saw the guy's highlight reel, that saw the guy's tape, and was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for this."
Against who are you talking about? Jake Paul?
Yeah, because he was going to fight. What was it? What was his
Hakeem
fight that?
Rockman?
Yeah, that
No, no,
fight
no.
didn't come to fruition.
He didn't back out. Rockman did. He didn't.
Uh,
He did. No, no. I heard a lot about this, and I doubted it too. I went back and forth, and it was a money and a weight issue. He didn't want to make the weight that Jake Paul was asking for. So I understand that people can say, I'm not trying to back up Jake Paul at all. I'm just saying what I heard from multiple different sources and areas and places that or I should say
See,
perceptions.
but my understanding of that was that Jake Paul was purposely setting a standard for weight and stuff like that, knowing that Rockman wasn't going to be able to hit those goals, so that they wouldn't have to fight. And then
I
ultimately, he ended up creating the fight that he made after that.
So
Um,
here's what
where
I can say about that. Rockman shouldn't. I think that's his last name, right? Hasim. I know it
Yeah,
was Hasim.
I
Anyway,
believe so.
he didn't have to. He didn't have to agree to that. You know what I mean? Like, you just let Jake Paul go talk to shit about how you turned down a fight with you. Don't fucking be the one that is obviously backing out of the fight. Like, maybe it's not that obvious if you thought that. Maybe he was putting implications on the fight that maybe weren't realistic, but he agreed to it. Like, he agreed to it and he signed the contract saying he would make that weight. So then they
Yeah,
tried to come back and they tried to actually bump the weight up, obviously, because they're probably like, oh, they're going to want to save this fight. They're going to want to keep the money, coming in. So they're going to want to still prove what they want to
yeah.
prove. So they'll up it. So I think both sides tried to manipulate shit a certain way. So I think that thing fell apart. I don't think,
Well,
I
Rockman had to
honestly,
know too that he was going to get a payday out of it for sure.
yeah.
Because
And
I
that's
think
the
that's
reason.
the why people attach themselves to those guys, because
Yeah.
it's a payday. Um, I think for the Paul brothers part, they're smart in who they pick. You know what I mean? Like Ben Askren, like you said it, he's not a striker, you know, but had they have gotten in a wrestling ring, or on a wrestling mat, we know what would have happened
Oh,
and how
yeah.
it would have played out if they did that.
Or
So,
even in
Paul's
MMA
smart to do
because,
what he does.
yeah, I think Ben Askren would have you know dominated him even in an MMA match because
Yeah,
he knows how to get away from the strikes and use his wrestling
yeah.
to his
I'll
advantage.
say I'll say this about the kid, like, and I forget the one that's been getting the knockouts. Like he clearly
Jake,
has real power.
yeah.
Like he does have he can KO people for sure. But as far as him being like a legitimate boxer, no, I don't buy that for a second. Until he fights someone that's like, I wouldn't even say like a ranked boxer. Like if he fights like an amateur that's had like a a couple of fights, like I would be interested to see that, just to see how he would do, because I would think like that's someone that's kind of on par with what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Well, Anderson fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and he fucking whooped his ass, made him look stupid. Like, that, I mean, I feel like that was like a way for Anderson to kind of show he's legit in this boxing world, you know what I mean? And he's always wanted to
Anderson,
box.
dude, Anderson has probably some of the best boxing for MMA that's come around in a long time, and even still right now. And I'll say this about Anderson, and I'm gonna paraphrase a good friend of mine, AJ. Shout out AJ. Um, Anderson's really good at like keeping his eyes open and paying attention to everything that's going on around him, and how he sets up like those KOs, those highlight reels that he's had that we're all familiar with. He there's something special there with him. So, I'm hoping that he does me a favor and just quiets this kid down a little bit when they fight.
Well, what I hope he doesn't do is I hope he doesn't come in there sticking his chin out with his hands down, doing the shit he did against Weidman, because Jake Paul does have, it's obvious
Yeah, exactly.
what he did to Tyron Woodley, regardless of what anybody thinks. Even if Tyron put his fucking chin out there, Anderson does that shit. So if you put your chin out there and you get hit like that, I mean, that was a clean KO, straight up.
Yep.
There was no doubt about it. There's no faking that. Like, maybe he put himself in that position on purpose. You can say what you want, but there's no faking that knockout. Not the way it happened. Not the
Mm-mm.
way it happened. I
And
don't
it, you
see
know what
how.
though? For everyone that says like stuff like that is fake, who the fuck is gonna let someone knock them the fuck out? And
Exactly.
especially all the memes and the shit that Tyron Woodley had to take because of that. That ain't worth all the money in the world, bro.
No.
Like, who's gonna let themselves do that?
No.
Who's gonna kill brain cells to do that?
Especially
That's
somebody
bullshit.
who has the reputation and the career that Tyron Woodley had. Like, come on, man. Why are you gonna fucking soil it like
Exactly.
that? I mean, people say that already just for the fact that he took the fight, but who cares? In the end, Anderson Silva's fighting him straight up and legit, and I think this is going to be probably the best like Jake Paul fight we're going to see, depending on what happens, maybe ever, because Anderson's going to give him a real fight. I don't see any way around it. Anderson's not the type to fucking do any of that bullshit. He's going to be out there to prove something, and I don't see Jake Paul getting this one easily if he gets it at all.
For
So
sure. For sure.
we'll see what happens with it. It's just something. It is coming up to October 29th, I believe. So I'll
Mm.
probably go over it again the week of. Um, but yeah, I did want to touch on that because you brought it up earlier too, and it's just something that the slap fighting, leads us into it and stuff. That shit's weird though. I am weirded out by the fact that Dana White's actually doing and attaching his name to it. You know what I mean? That's even crazier. And for
I'm
Lorenzo
almost kind of
Fertitta,
sad that there's enough like that they could garner enough attention for something like that. Because
dude,
that,
it's everywhere.
yeah, I have no interest in seeing that at all.
I'll watch a video that pops up here and there and just be like, damn, that fool got knocked out. But I don't want to watch it like I watch fights right now. This is dumb.
I mean,
They have the, oh, go ahead.
the only way that would be interesting to me is that if they treated it as something funny, like if they got like D-list celebrities to like slap box each other, maybe then it would be entertaining. But even then, it's like it would be one of those things I don't know how they're approaching doing it, but it's like that's the kind of stuff that like I don't know like you that's for like TikTok or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not like
Well,
legitimate viewership stuff.
we'll see how it turns out if they follow through with it. I mean, Dana White was trying to start Zuffa boxing as well, and I think they realized this is something I heard. I think from Ariel Hawani maybe or Brendan Schaub. I'm not sure. They brought up a good point. Zuffa boxing was supposed to be the next big thing. Dana talked about it, hyped it up. They were trying to. He wore a shirt one time saying Zuffa boxing in a
Yeah.
press conference. But what happened to it? Where'd it go? What happened? You haven't heard about it in years. This
Mm-mm.
was years ago that this happened. And they, whoever said it, I can't remember, but they said, I think he realized that they can't treat boxers like they treat MMA fighters right now. Telling them what they need to wear, telling them how, that they need to test where they are 24/7, paying them shit. Like, he probably realized that they can't do that in boxing and that they weren't going to be able to do the promotion the way that they wanted to do it. So they just pretty much let it fall out. So who knows? Maybe slap fighting is something that's gonna maybe it's something that they decided where, maybe they can make it work there. I don't know. Who gives a shit? I just thought I bring it up because I wasn't sure if you heard about it and I thought it was kind of ridiculous myself. So
Yeah.
we'll see what
I'm gonna have
happens.
to hop on the internet and just look that up because yeah, that's
It
some
was just
weirdness.
announced this week, so that it was official. I had heard little rumblings here and there of stuff about it, but yeah, yeah. If you follow Going Around's podcast on any social media, you'll see that I reposted it. So, little plug. The last thing I wanted to talk about, we can wrap it up here soon. One Championship is having a fight this week as well. I believe they always go on Fridays on Amazon Prime. Um, it's oh yeah, Friday the 21st. I have it written down right there. Good for me.
Mhm.
But one on Prime Video 3. So it's Lineker versus on Andrade bantamweight title fight. Now, here's the problem. I heard this earlier. I didn't write it in my notes, but I just remembered. Lineker missed weight, lost his belt. So this is another Oliveira thing, except Lineker missed weight by like 5 pounds. And I'll tell you right now, if you know who John Lineker is, hands of stone, he used to fight in the UFC. Weight
Yeah.
problems all the fucking time. He missed weight like 3 times in UFC. Half the reason why he got dropped. So it's no
Well,
surprise to
5
me.
pounds I think is grounds enough that, like, they can almost that can almost get that fight canceled.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But it's one championship, so who knows? Like their weight cutting thing is way different, and if he passed the hydration portion but he missed the weight, they give him a chance. But I think because this is a title fight right off the bat, it's donezo for him. He vacates the title. The fight is still going, but
Well, and
he
he's
can't.
gonna have to give up a percentage of his purse and all that kinda
Yeah,
stuff too, right?
yeah,
Because at that
20%.
point, I think the opponent can not only does he get a percentage of the purse, but he can also, I think it gets to the point where the opponent can kinda say, like, "Nah,
I don't want to fight. Yeah.
yeah, I had a contract to fight at this weight. If this guy can't honor that, then, we're gonna have to talk some turkey or do something a little different." Because
Or catch weight it. But I
Mhm.
think because the title's on the line, the opponent can actually still win the title if he wins the fight. So that pretty much always pushes people to say, "Fuck it, I'll take the 20% or 25% of his purse, and I'll still fight for the belt." Because he's getting extra
Yeah,
money no matter what, and he was gonna fight him anyway. He went through the camp, might as well do it. And if you win, you get the belt. And if you don't win it but make it a good fight, then you can still fight for the belt again, maybe. It just depends on what
yeah.
the promotion wants to do with you. But anyway, there is a lightweight Muay Thai title fight as well as a lightweight submission grappling fight on that card. So if you're interested in one championship and seeing what it has to offer, obviously there's a lot. MMA, Muay Thai, grappling, submission grappling, 3 titles on the line. Friday on Amazon Prime. Check it out if you're interested. It's another decent card. I was kind of excited to see that Lineker fight, but he's up to his old shit. Kind of pisses me off. Makes me not want to watch. I'll wait for the highlights and see what's up.
Has he
Kind of
given, like, a reason why he's constantly missing weight, or is
think he's
because
just
yeah,
lazy,
like you
man.
said, he's
Honestly, he has that look. He has that look like, fuck it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever paid attention to him when he fought in the UFC or anything.
yeah,
He just had anytime he's missed weight, he's just kind of like what Chimaev did. He was just like, whatever. I don't know. What am I
it
gonna
is what
tell
it
you?
is, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if he cares that he lost his belt, but it's like, come on, man, get your fucking shit together. Either move up in weight or get your shit together. Or do both. How about that? And then you don't have any more problems. I don't know what the fucking
For
problem
sure.
is.
Well,
Maybe I don't know.
and you get to a point with situations like that where it's almost like the organization kinda has to step in and be like, "Look, man, you gotta move up.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
and
just
that's what
what
the
we gotta do."
UFC did with him, and then he's still having trouble. So I don't know. I guess the dude doesn't learn. Maybe he has an issue nobody knows about, but why haven't the doctors caught it yet? You know what I mean? They got doctors around him all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So
Come
I
to
don't know
think
what
of it,
it.
I think I might have the same issue.
Same here. I don't know what's happening. We don't have to make weight for shit though. We just got to try to make
Exactly.
weight to look better. Hey, you've been working out though. I see you with your flexing in the
Yeah,
camera.
man. I'm
That's
trying,
good
dude.
shit.
Yeah,
Hell
if
yeah,
you don't post it, it's like you didn't go, so,
right?
I gotta do my thing.
Pictures or it didn't happen, right? How's the wife doing? Is everything going good with her little journey she's got going too?
Yeah, everything's going good, man. She's killing it, and she's keeping me honest. Like I don't want to fall behind. She already
Yeah,
beats me anyway, so I got to be able to handle myself a little bit.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Shout out to Crystal. I hope keep doing the damn thing. I mean, I do follow her on Instagram with her page that she made, so it's good to
Yeah,
see.
she's doing really well.
That's good, man. You guys keep it up. I need to join the club because, yeah, I
Let's
need to
do it,
join the
man.
club. Yeah. I've been talking about it with Michelle too. I'm like, I need to do something, man. I feel like shit. So I'm over here sweating like an asshole.
Yeah. No, the weather is nice, man. Now I'll get down to Tucson and we'll plan something. Get outside and do something. Drag Josh's goofy sweater ass along and have some fun.
For sure. It's if he ever fucking watches these. Last time he was like, "Oh, I haven't watched it yet." I'm like, "All right."
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Where's the love, Josh? But
Exactly.
anyway, man, unless you got something else you want to hit on, we're going on 2 hours here. It's pretty good podcast. I'm used to this, but I don't
No.
know if you're like, damn, are we done yet?
No, I'm good, man. It's fun to, like I said, like we talked about in the beginning. It's fun to have someone that is on the same level and has the same enthusiasm for something like I do. So it's fun, man. Hopefully you'll have me back on again for some more fights and like we talked about, man. Let's do one in person live and
For sure.
keep
That'd be
it going.
great. Yeah. My room's not very big, but I've got it looking good now. I still have a bigger space now than I did before, which is badass. Now I have a whole room. So we can make it happen. I just got to do some research, make sure I can get all my audio good and my video, and it'll be a good learning experience, and hopefully it'll just come out great. Like if I didn't have to learn anything, it just happened, right?
Yep,
That's the hope. So, all
for sure.
right. Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when I go live or when I have a new episode coming out.
So you can
And
go some rounds.
hell yeah. And don't forget to follow me on social media. Got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Going rounds on everything except Twitter because they hate when you put too many letters. So it's going rounds pod. And if you listen to this audio only, I'm on all these platforms and more, but I'm not going to put them all out there because I already had this made and fuck it, right?
Yep.
These are the important ones.
Yeah.
You can get video and audio on Spotify. You can get audio everywhere else: Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, all that good shit. So go check it out if you don't want to watch the video. If you're moving around like I do at work and you just want to listen, it's a good place to listen. You don't have to have YouTube on in the background eating up that data. And because I'm ridiculous, I'm on two other podcasts. So if you don't know, now you know. The final episode on the Murd channel on YouTube. We go on, well, now it's just Sundays for the final episode because we do something called the Royal Rumble, which is a combination of Enough to Be Dangerous, which is that second visual you see there, E2BD, Enough to Be Dangerous. I will be on that podcast from now on, starting Tuesday. They go on Tuesday. So I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here, but I'm doing a bunch of podcasts. It's fun. It's all the same guys
Busy
pretty
man.
much. Yeah, Enough to Be Dangerous has a couple other guys that we are now kind of merging everybody into one podcast here. It's fun. It's cool. It gives me a good way to work everything out, make sure I can have good everything going for this podcast because this is my passion here with MMA and combat sports in general. So, if you're interested, go take a look at all of that. Enough to Be Dangerous is on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on Twitch, which is Enough to Be Dangerous. That's their title on Twitch. So that's a little different. Final episode is on YouTube. Royal Rumble is on YouTube. Wednesdays, Sundays. Shut up, Eric. That's a lot. I got to do a lot of plugs now because I want to make sure I give everybody their shine because they're all having me a part of their podcast and, you know, they all help me out. So I'm always going to
Exactly, man.
shout it out. And thank you, Patrick, for being on again. I appreciate it. It's fun as usual. And there'll be plenty more to come for sure. We'll just keep making it a good time because, yeah.
Absolutely, man. My
All right.
pleasure. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you, brother.
Like I said, yeah. Whenever you want to have me back, I'll be happy to do it.
For sure. Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. If you're here and if you're watching this later, thanks for checking it out. And if you're just listening later on, thank you for listening. I'm gonna shut the fuck up now, and we're gonna end this. If that's okay with you, Patrick. Later.
Yep.
Thanks again.
Later.
Appreciate you. Peace.